And we're back on The Secret Life of Chocolate, teaching you about one of the world's most popular desserts.
And you'll most likely consume chocolate as a bar or a drink, but it actually starts out in a bean in a pod like this one. The Theobroma cacao tree produces large pods which grow in its trunk and branches. Each pod weighs about a pound and contains anywhere from 20 to 60 beans. These beans are then separated, dried, and roasted before making chocolate.
The cacao plant is a difficult one to grow. In addition to favoring a select humid climate, it also has other vulnerabilities. Here to tell us more about those and a new project aiming to improve their growth is reporter Anaridis Rodriguez. Anaridis, what did you find?
Thanks, Kayla. Cacao is one of the top 10 agricultural commodities in the world, but pests and diseases often make it hard for farmers to grow large amounts and gain a profit. This is why researchers have found a genome in the cacao bean that will allow farmers the opportunity to develop a better breed of the plant.
It's a genome which took everything that was going on in the world and coalesced it into the best way to have it. You would call it a model genome or a reference genome now. It's that good.
Howard Yana Shapiro is the Global Staff Officer for Plant Science and External Research at Mars Incorporated and an adjunct professor of plant sciences at the University of California, Davis. He and a team of researchers recently decoded the genome in the cacao plant. They hope it will allow farmers to breed new plants that can withstand many of nature's challenges. Changing the yield means farmers can grow more beans on less land and earn enough money to stay out of poverty. But Shapiro says previous research always fell short.
They work on things that have large impact to a large group of industrial scale farmers. There are all these crops that no one ever worked on before, like cocoa, even though it's one of the top 10 traded commodities. So this was a leap forward in a fundamental way.
But Shapiro says there's a second story, how they choose to distribute their research. They made the genome patent protected, meaning no one company would profit from the research.
Everybody has the same access to the information. It was used the day it was published. It was published at 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. That time in Ghana, they were using a real-time PCR machine, which we installed at the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana. And they were analyzing leaf material based on what they were pulling down off the internet at that moment.
Cacao beans provide the livelihood for over 6.5 million farmers around the world. So it is no surprise that in just 4 months, over 15,000 people have accessed the Cacao Genome database. Reporting live in Boston, I'm Anaridis Rodriguez.
Thanks, Anaridis. Because it only grew in select areas and because it had a particular use in heightened social status, cacao beans were often used as a form of currency in the Maya and Aztec societies. As you can imagine, this led to a cultural misunderstanding that Professor Gravetti came across in a letter about the infamous Spanish conquistador Hernando Cortez.
It talks about him receiving a gift of an orchard or a plantation of cacao trees. Yeah, he didn't want this. He wanted gold. But the Aztecs gave him the most important, valuable thing they had, which were cacao trees.
And even after the Spanish had instituted their currency, cacao was still used in some cases as smaller change for Spanish coins. And cacao beans were even counterfeited, thus confirming its legitimacy as a form of currency. And although Gravetti says the beans may still be used as currency in some places, I'm pretty sure those chocolate coins aren't going to hold up at the cash register.
Now, as you heard just a bit ago, there are some 6.5 million cacao farmers worldwide, and some 40 to 50 million more depend on cacao for their livelihood. Some of the farmers have formed co-ops to ensure they get a better pay for the price of their beans. We talked to Anna Waldman-Brown, a physics student at MIT, with her own chocolate connection.
What I was doing was researching the effects of oil exploitation on cacao farms, and that ended up being a lot of running around the Ministry of the Environment in Quito and then trying to gather the information of what exactly the drilling process was, and then trying to relay that to the cacao farmers and tell them who they could go to if they saw oil leaks on their property and what the effects might be on the organic certification.
Waldman-Brown learned how to prepare cacao beans while working at the Kalari Co-op in Ecuador. She said while there, she was inspired by the social justice aspects of cacao production.
When I found that there would be an opportunity for me to mix my interest in energy policy and the politics of oil drilling with working with a bunch of cacao growers, I jumped at that opportunity.
And a local chocolate making company buys its beans directly from co-ops like the one Waldman-Brown visited.
Reporter Lindsay Burrill gives us a behind-the-scenes look at a production at Taza Chocolate.
What you're watching is just one step in the process of creating Taza Chocolate.
Taza is one of the few bean-to-bar companies in the United States. That means, here at this factory, they turn the cacao bean into a chocolate bar that doesn't quite fit the traditional mold.
We just make a really simple, rustic, textured, stone-ground organic chocolate bar here.
Alex Whitmore says the reason the chocolate has such a unique texture is because of that traditional stone ground method.
We use just simple roasting techniques, very minimal grinding techniques. We only use these rotary Mexican traditional stone mills to grind all of our cacao.
All of these beans will have to be roasted in machines just like this one.
We ground to the top via a bucket elevator, and right here they're going to go through a bean breaker.
Inside the broken beans are nibs that are collected in these bags. Those are ground into chocolate using these stones.
And what's happening is that there's chocolate liquor mixed with sugar that we made yesterday being pumped from a mixing tank behind us over to these two mills.
These mills help to blend the chocolate with many different ingredients. Then it runs down the long conveyor belt where it is stored to be tempered and eventually cooled down until it can be wrapped.
You can make your chocolate seem unique just by the kind of wrapper you wrap it in and the words that you write on that wrapper. Then there's the idea that you can actually put chocolate inside that wrapper that is different.
That was Larry Slotnick. Him and Whitmore are co-founders of Taza Chocolate. They started the company back in 2006 when Whitmore was inspired after a visit to Mexico when he learned all about the making of Mexican traditional chocolate. Reporting for The Secret Life of Chocolate, I'm Lindsay Burrill.
Artisan chocolatiers hold taste above all else, but presentation is also a key part of convincing someone to try a new candy, especially with non-traditional flavors. Here's Cat Viglienzoni with more about a chocolatier who experiments with both.
We just heard about chocolate's origins and global reach. Depending on where you are in the world, you'll find a diverse combination of chocolate flavors. At Blue Tierra Chocolate Cafe in South Boston, unique designs and experimental flavors help bring an international touch to the truffle.
Books aren't the only things people judge by their covers. The same goes for truffles.
I never would have realized it because chocolate tastes so good. I've definitely noticed it with our chocolates. If we change the design on something, the way that it's perceived by people is definitely different.
Jen Turner owns Blue Tierra Chocolates in South Boston. Her most impressive truffles are the ones decorated the old-fashioned way, by hand.
I start with a light blue and I swirl it around one way. And then once that sets, I take a dark royal blue and then I swirl that around the other way. And then I actually dust it with edible silver dust. In the background, I spray it white to kind of make all the colors pop against the dark chocolate.
The truffle looks pretty, but Turner says she wasn't sure at first if blue would work.
It's hard to put blue on food and make it look appetizing. It's just kind of one of those colors.
One tool she uses to give her candy some pizzazz is her airbrush. It sprays a thin sprinkling of colored cocoa butter onto a chocolate. It's everything from the seafoam green garnish on a peppermint to the emerald green shell for a turtle, or even the blue hue for a whale. Another popular form of decorating is a transfer sheet. It has cocoa butter designs already stamped on. All Turner has to do is enrobe the truffle in molten chocolate and place it on the sheet. The wet chocolate will pick up the design. But though she likes decorating, Turner says coming up with new flavors is the most interesting part of working with chocolate.
I mean, it's all about experimenting, so you don't know until you try it.
The names give a hint of the truffle's ingredients and origins. Turner says the pomegranate truffle is dubbed the Persian palm because the fruits originated there.
We sort of like come up with a spice from a different, from a specific region in the world, and we come up with names for them, and then kind of come up with a design that sort of represents where it's from.
But perhaps her most unique truffle is the BLT, Bacon Lover's Truffle, with crispy bacon, maple, and dark chocolate. It's popular and sold out. Reporting for The Secret Life of Chocolate, I'm Cat Viglienzoni.
Up next, chocolate's long history in Beantown. Reporter Megan Lamontagne takes us to some of colonial Boston's chocolate hotspots.
And we'll take a tour with some chocolate lovers to see whether they think the city meets their chocolate fix.
And Easter is approaching, so break out the chocolate bunnies or an egg that's more than a foot tall, the extraordinary creation at this Brookline chocolatier.
You're watching The Secret Life of Chocolate. Stay with us.